Hello everybody, hope you're happy and healthy. Welcome back to episode number 2 of Home of the Braves, my Out of the Park 21 series focused on the Atlanta Braves and their push towards the World Series, hopefully in one of the upcoming seasons. So just to get started here, I'm going to start in my mailbox where I have a message from my owner just reminding me that my team should be making the playoffs. In the last episode, I offered some minor league deals to the free agents that did not have any demands. Some of them are going to be coming back right at me immediately saying that they're not interested, so that's what some of those emails are going to be. There's also the prospect list. I'm not actually sure where my minor league team is, or my minor league system is ranked, but I'm assuming it's quite low because most of my prospects are actually in the majors, but let's take a look anyways. Let's see here. We're looking for the Atlanta Braves. Where are they? I must have missed them. Braves, Atlanta. There they are, number 9. So a couple of good prospects in there. Guys that I've already looked at. Apart from Contreras, I haven't seen him in there. And Shea Langeliers, who I think I've actually signed before in previous OOTPs way in the future. So before we get started in our season, I'm just going to go through my personnel, and there are a couple of open spots in my very low minor leagues. In the video that I did, episode 1, I mentioned that you want to have successful minor league systems because of the fact that you want to promote your own staff members from within. So the idea is if you have a winning team, the reputation level here, as well as the attributes that these certain coaches have with the players in the minor league system improves. So the reputation all of a sudden becomes good or excellent, outstanding. And once that reputation is increased, you can then move them up when these contracts up here expire. So on the major league team, especially if you find success, you'll notice that your hitting coaches, your pitching coaches, bench coaches, etc. ask for quite a lot of money. And not to say that there's anything wrong with that, but when it starts to become $500, $800, $1 million per year, that's a large chunk of your budget, and it's easier to promote from within. So if this pitching coach, for instance, Mike Maroth, finds success down here in AAA and his reputation improves all the way to good or to excellent, I'm going to promote him up to the pitching coach in the major leagues and fill in for Rick Kranitz when his contract expires, for instance, just as an example. And in that way, it will be nice and cheap. So we only make $64,000 here. I promote him, he makes something similar, like $240,000, $250,000 in the majors, and that's a lot cheaper than going out and finding another unproven pitching coach in the coaching free agent market. So that's what I'm sort of doing here, just as an example, looking through the coaches. So what I'm looking for here, pitching coach for my rookie league. So I'm going to look for somebody who is filtered down to pitching coach, and I'm going to look for somebody who maybe has low level experience, like 3 or 4 years, and is, when we look, it says someone who works well with younger players, for instance, is a good trait to have. Let's see if we can find one here. So okay, here we go. Armando Valdez seems to have a pretty good influence on young players, and he's only been in the game for 3 years. So the reason I signed someone like this as opposed to somebody who is in the game for maybe longer, like 24 years, I just saw right here, Bert Hooton has been in the game for 24 years but only has a fair reputation, or maybe even a poor reputation. Somebody who's been in 11 years, poor reputation, that's probably not someone who I'm looking to sign, because if they've been in the system for that long and they've never improved their reputation, I'm not as interested in them. Okay, hitting coach. This is in the Dominican Rookie League, so anytime I'm in the Dominican Rookie League, I try to hire Dominican coaches. I think that's the fair way of doing things. Let's see, hitting coach, and the reason for that is primarily because of the language. So I'm not sure if that actually has an influence on the game, to be completely honest, but I do want to at least try to sign someone who speaks the same language as the players that are playing down in the rookie league. So here's somebody, let's see if he's interested. 1 year at $60,000. Sure, let's do it. And then I'm also going to be looking for a full-on manager, Dominican. Let's see, looking for a manager. Let's see if we can find someone. So we want development influence to be high, obviously, that's what we're looking for, and hopefully to be Dominican. So this is looks to be okay. Let's see if he's interested. 2 year for 204,000. Let's see if we can find someone better and cheaper. There might not be, but it's worth looking around, browsing through the names on the list. So the reality is that most of them aren't, they don't have very good development influence. So I'm just going to go and sign Juan Cabrera. And yeah, 204,000 for 2 years. It's a little bit on the expensive side, especially for rookie league, but sometimes that works out well and you get a gem in the rough. Okay, so right before we head into our first couple of series, I want to just keep in mind the players that I potentially could be dealing so that I can remind myself to look at their stats sort of weekly or bi-weekly to get an idea how they're performing, and if they're underperforming, then it'll be time to move them on. So Bryce Wilson is somebody that I don't know if I'm going to be sticking with him. He is a hard worker, respected by teammates. His actual pitch attributes are quite high, so that's potential for good statistics in the game, and that's something I'll just keep a careful eye on, because even though his potential rating might not be that high, his actual attributes aren't too low, so it's something that you never know. It could end up being that he outperforms his potential. So just something worth looking at. Again, Shane Green, expiring contract. That's something that we'll want to look at. Mark Melanson, another player on an expiring contract. The problem with him is that he's making 14 shmil a year, so I don't think anybody is going to be interested in him. If we look down the list, we have to re-sign Freddie Freeman. I might do that earlier rather than later. Without even opening this up, I know that Freddie Freeman is going to want to look at probably 5, 6, 7, 8 years. He's also going to want quite a lot of salary, so probably 30 mil plus per season. I actually didn't know that he has a second nationality of Canadian. That's pretty cool. As a Canadian myself. We also look at Adini Hechavarria as someone that we might move on if we look down the list. Ender Inciarte. The reason I might move on Inciarte is because of the fact that I have a really good center fielder brewing. So he is a free agent in 2 more years, and I have a team opt-out. So at the very least, I can buy him out of his contract, but it's never a good idea to buy players out of their contract unless they're making an unfathomable amount of money and you have no other way of getting rid of them. Then definitely buy them out of their contract with a team option. But if you have an opportunity to deal them for some kind of return, even if it's just a cheaper option, do that, because that cheaper option may turn into a piece that you can move in another trade. So just something to keep in mind. The strategy is being controlled by my manager, Brian Snitker, and I think that for the most part, I'm just going to leave all that stuff up to him for the start until we see some potential problems, in which case I'll either fire Brian Snitker or take control of some of the minor micromanagements myself. I typically don't actually play the games throughout the season until I get towards the playoffs, because it's a lot more fun and the decisions have a lot more impact at that stage. But if you're interested in watching some of the games, I might play through a couple of them throughout the season. Just let me know in the comments what you're interested in. As you can see here, all that I did to change up my lineup was this is options and preview. So this is where you can sort of see where what your players are batting at, what the opponents are batting at, some of their stats, etc. If you then go into your lineup and starting pitcher right here, you can change the order just by clicking and dragging the players around. You can also change their position by just clicking on this drop down menu and then selecting the position that you think they're best suited to. Sometimes the AI messes with that and puts them in a position that you don't want them to be playing in, but for the most part this is done correct for me. So once you're happy with that and you see your pitchers over here, the right pitcher is pitching for you. So if you wanted to switch it, you would just click and drag like so. So I want Soroka, he's my ace, and he'll be starting off the season. So then you just click start game and then you're into it. So what I like to do, if I'm really interested in prolonging the game and making sure that I really put myself in the optimum position to win, I'm going to take pitches, and the reason being is it tires out the starting pitcher. A lot of, especially first pitches, tend to be balls. So I've heard that OOTP 21 has new in-game systems for you to play with. So this is my first time seeing the new stadiums. They look much better. The field looks better. I don't know what the animations look like. Probably not very improved, but you never know. Once I take a strike, sometimes you can even take up to 2 strikes, but I then let them swing away and play the game as they would normally play it. Oh, interesting. There's a little zoom on the camera there. I might mess with this as the game goes on, but that just gives you an idea of how to play offense. If you're interested in really tiring out the pitcher and potentially giving yourself a better opportunity to win, take the pitches, and as you can see, it's a ball. Okay, so I'll take the next one up until you have a strike, and then click swing away. So let's see. Okay, in at the knees for a strike. It's now a 1-1. I'll swing away, and we've worked ourselves to a full count, and that just gives yourself an opportunity to spend some pitches with and show some patience with their starting pitcher. As the game gets deeper into it, you might not want to be taking pitches. Some batters like to swing at the first pitch, especially if they're very aggressive at the plate, and in order to allow them to hit the ball in their optimum count, you can just let them swing away right from the start. So okay, there's a strike, 1-1. So I'll let Freddie Freeman swing away, another full count. So at this point, it looks like, well, unless this bloops and drops in, it won't. So I just went 3 up, 3 down in the top of the first inning, but I did make Robbie Ray use some of his pitches up. So it might not do anything in the first or second or third inning, but when he starts to tire out, it's a lot more of an advantage to have been taking pitches right from the start. So just something to keep in mind. When you're pitching, there's a lot more options for you to do, so I'm just going to pitch right from the start, especially in the first few innings. You just want to let your pitcher find his groove. So there's an example of a pop-out from Starling Marte. Here's David Peralta, and I'll just let Soroka pitch his way through the lineup if he can. So it looks like this one is just a lazy fly ball out to left field, and easy catch. And only a couple of pitches so far from Mike Soroka. Let's see if we can get out of this inning. Nope, it's going to be a line drive right back up the middle, so they're going to have one on. This is good to show the defensive options that you can do with out of the park baseball 21. So right up here it says your defense, and it gives you infield and outfield. This is something, for instance, if there was only one out and I wanted to get a double play ball with Eduardo Escobar, what I'm going to do is go to double play depth. So DP depth stands for double play depth, so that just puts my infield a little bit closer together. As you can see, my shortstop and second baseman, they come in a little bit, and that allows them, if the ball is put in play, to turn a double play a little easier because they're closer together. Okay, so again, if you have, for instance, a power hitter up to bat, so in this case this is a power hitter, and you can look down and see where their ground ball type is. Okay, so it's normal. If they're a pull hitter and they're left-handed like they are here, I'm going to put my infield to the hard shift right, for example. Let's see, where is it? Shift right. Okay, so that moves all my infielders over to the right. So if he pulls the ball, which he likely would if he was a pull hitter, he would pull it into the infield, and I'd have a better shift for that, for my defense to get the out, right? So, but because he hits the ground ball normally, I'm just going to put the infield as, let's see if I can go deep, infield deep. Okay, so that just allows him, this guy hits the ball a little bit harder because he's got 54 power, so it's 2 outs. Let's go infield normal as well. But as you can see, if you have a power hitter or something, you can go outfield deep, outfield very deep, shift the outfield, etc. So those are just little tips that you can use throughout your game to micromanage your team. So I'm just going to pitch normally to him. And again, if you're playing for the double play, as an example, you can play pitch to contact, just stuff like that to help you get through the inning. Okay, so we had a little ground ball back to the pitcher, and we got the out. So as you can see here, you can go quick play for this at bat. So if I just wanted to skip through the entire at bat, I could click at bat like this. So Ronald Acuna, he grounds right out to the shortstop, 1 up, 1 down. So that just skips through all the pitch by pitch stuff if you just want to play through the at bat like that. And then there's other options like until RISP, which is runners in scoring position, is Albies lines one. Wow, it's gone on a line. So Ozzie Albies gets off his season, the very first at bat, on a 2-0 count, drives the ball deep to left field, and he's got 1 home run already on the season. So there you go, Ozzie Albies, one of my favorite players in the MLB right now. RISP stands for runners in scoring position, so you can play the game basically until the runners get to second base, which is scoring position, and that's an option for you usually. So what happens if you never get a runner into scoring position? For instance, they go 3 up, 3 down, or maybe one of your players gets a single but then never makes it to second base, and the whole inning just sims. So half inning is if you just want to sim the whole half inning. I don't recommend doing that personally, but at bat is a pretty good middle ground for you to just get through the inning fairly quickly. And there you go. So we had 1 hit. It ended up being a home run. Got a few pitches out of Robbie Ray, and I got through the inning pretty quickly. Okay, so here's an example of the National League at its finest. So the National League here, they have pitchers hitting. So in this half inning, my pitcher will bat, and we've got Tyler Flowers, who's got terrible contact, terrible power, but he is a good defensive catcher. So I'm just going to try to take pitches all the way through and see if I can work the count a little bit from Robbie Ray, because to be honest, I don't anticipate that Tyler Flowers will get many hits this season, but we'll just see here. So there we go, grounds out to shortstop, but he did get 4 pitches out of Robbie Ray, so not the end of the world. Now we've got our pitcher batting here, so you can try to bunt for a hit, take pitch, swing away. But again, when I get to this part of the order, especially if I'm in the National League, I'm going to be taking pitches pretty much all the way. The reason being is we got to try to up the pitch count. So I'll show you where the pitch count is. So there, strike 2. So I'm going to now let Mike Soroka swing away. But as you can see here, this is our pitch count down here in the bottom right. Robbie Ray, left-handed pitcher. He throws 92 to 94 miles an hour. And he's already used up 34 pitches. So as you can see here, he's just getting a little bit tired. We're in the top of the third, so that's good for me. We want it, especially in the first game of the series, as Ray strikes out Mike Soroka. First game of the series, super important to get this team into their bullpen. That sets up success for the rest of the 3 or 4 game series. So I really highly recommend letting your guys, especially in the early part of the game, take pitches, and that'll set you up for the rest of the series if you're in the first game. Okay, we found ourselves in a potential sacrifice situation. So Soroka is up to bat here. As we can see, we've dug into Robbie Ray. It's a 2-2 game, but Robbie Ray is getting towards the end of his pitching life here, which is good. Now we've got a man on second, Tyler Flowers, who just drove in a run to tie the game up at 2. Mike Soroka, I have 2 options. I can substitute him out and pinch hit with a offensive-minded player, but that means that I have to take Mike Soroka out of the game, and I don't think I'm ready to do that yet. So instead, what I can do is try to get him to get a hit, or I can bunt, which should allow Tyler Flowers to move over to the third. This doesn't always work because of the fact that, of course, in real baseball, if the bunt gets hit, there's a possibility that one of the fielders can pick it up and throw it to third or throw it to second, basically hold the runner, Tyler Flowers, at second, and then still get Mike Soroka with the out. But I mean, chances are Mike Soroka's not getting the hit anyways. Chances are Tyler Flowers is not advancing anyways. So in my opinion, it's worth trying the bunt. I don't know if advanced stats agree with me on that one or not, but let's try it out. So he lays down the bunt. Looks like Tyler Flowers is going to be able to take third, no problem. So there we go. Sacrificial situation where I keep Mike Soroka in the game, or keep my pitcher in the game, but still manage to advance the runner. And now I've got Ender Inciarte, hopefully with the ability to drive in Tyler Flowers. 2 outs, top of the 5th. Let's see if he can do it. Bloop. Yes, he did. There we go. Okay, so that was a great example. So he blooped one out into the left field area just past the shortstop, and that drove in Tyler Flowers, because if Tyler Flowers is at second, I don't think he scores there. So awesome example. Okay, so here's an example of the pitcher being up to bat. Nick Ahmed over there at first. Mike Soroka's allowed a home run, so 1 run in the inning, and they've now got a man on first, no out. So what are they going to do here? Robbie Ray is up to bat, which means he's coming out to pitch in the next inning. But this is a sacrifice situation, so they're likely going to bunt with him. What I'm going to do is go infield in. Where is it? There it is. So infield comes in, play for the bunt, and I doubt that we get the guy at second, but at the very least, we almost guarantee ourselves the out with Robbie Ray. We'll see if he swings away here. No, he's bunting, so that just means we get the easy out at first. So there's an example of using your infield to get the out in the way that you need to. And now we've got a runner in scoring position with only 1 out. So this is where we have to be smart. Starling Marte, David Peralta, Ketel Marte, and then Eduardo Escobar. So who do I want to face here? Starling Marte has gone 1 for 2 in this game so far. So does that mean he's hot? I don't know. It's so early in the season, it's tough to tell. Do we allow Mike Soroka to pitch? We can, or we can go intentional walk or pitch around. So if I'd rather face Peralta, which I would because he doesn't have a hit yet in this game, what I'm going to do is pitch around Starling Marte, try to make it so it's tough for him to get any sort of solid contact, but potentially walk him, which I did. So no big deal in my opinion because we've just walked him. Now we go infield, double play depth, just like so. Okay, and this is David Peralta, so we look to now see if we can pitch to contact. Okay, so this is risky because he could hit a big bomb here, and 3-run home run would be pretty bad at this stage of the game. As well as any other hit like a single, double, triple, etc. That would not be ideal at this part of the game, but we can also take the risk, make him pitch to contact, and then hopefully get him to ground into a double play. He is a spray hitter, so let's see what happens here. See if we can get him to pitch to contact. Oh, he struck out. Okay, so I pitched to contact and he struck out, so that does happen from time to time. Okay, on this one we want infield deep, like so. We don't want anything dropping in front of our outfield either. So outfield deep, dropping behind our outfield. That's what I meant to say. So Ketel Marte, let's see what we can get him to do. Let's see if we can get him to ground out with the, well, looks like he might have just hit a homer. He has. Okay, so 3-run homer. That's the 4th homer of the game that Mike Soroka has given up. So at this point, this is another time for us to use an example. These things happen. Like, I'm not that upset that they've managed to put 6 runs up on us. Like, there's only so much you can do. But Mike Soroka is getting tired. So let's get a relief pitcher going. Now, what part of the game? We're in the bottom of the 5th. So not ideal, but we need a long relief pitcher. Somebody with high stamina. Let's see who's got the highest stamina. Who's my... MR stands for middle relief. SPE stands for specialist. SU stands for setup. CL stands for closer. So Mark Melancon. LR is long relief. Let's get him in the bullpen warming up, and let's see if Mike Soroka can get out of this inning. Yeah, he will. So this guy will ground out to second. So there we go. They've put up 4 runs on 3 hits and a walk in that inning, and now it's time for us to see if we can do some damage on the tiring Robbie Ray. Alright, so we've got Mike Soroka up to bat again. I let him pitch for 1 more inning. He calmed down and got through the side in order. So I've warmed up Shane Green to replace him. But here's an example of me using a pinch hitter. So I can use Austin Riley, Dansby Swanson, Adam Duvall, Nick Markakis. So Nick Markakis has the best contact stat, so I'm going to stick him in there as the pinch hitter and see if he can get on base for me in the top of the 7th. He can't. He strikes out. That's fine. So now what happens? So you don't necessarily want to switch Shane Green in for Mike Soroka. The reason being is that we could somehow, even with 2 outs, get all the way through the order. And if you've now put in Shane Green, he's going to be batting for Nick Markakis, I believe. I actually haven't tried that in Out of the Park 21. But if he's batting as a pinch hitter for Nick Markakis, now we've got a problem where we're going to have to put another pinch hitter in for Shane Green, and Shane Green can no longer pitch in the game, so we'd have to warm up another pitcher. It's a whole mess. So leave Markakis or your pinch hitter in for your pitcher. Continue to allow your relief pitcher to warm up. Obviously, if the inning goes for like 10 batters, he'll be tired, but maybe at that point you start warming up another pitcher to replace the guy it'll say tired in their status here. But for the most part, you just want to keep that pitcher warming up so that you don't accidentally have to replay. Oh, I just got hit. Charge the mound. Ah, too bad. I don't know if you can actually do that in this game, but okay. So now we've got a relief pitcher in for the Arizona Diamondbacks. So yeah, basically what my piece of advice there is don't replace the pitcher in the pitching slot up until you have confirm that the inning is over. Okay, so the inning is over right there on the ground out to shortstop. You have an incomplete lineup or defensive position missing, so that's okay. And you stick Shane Green in, replacing Mike Soroka. Yep, and there it should say Shane Green pitcher in the 9th batting spot. So just like that. Okay, so we lost the first game of the season. A little bit disappointing, especially with my ace pitching, but Robbie Ray is a good pitcher, so it's not the end of the world. As you can see here, when I've come back, a lot of contracts have been signed, and these players have been put into my minor league system. So just players with high potential and players who have a little bit of skill with them right now that will hopefully add a little bit of help to the minor league system. And what we'll do is sim just a couple of weeks here and get an idea of what our team looks like. A lot of people think that when they first get the game that you have to play through every single game. Listen, there's 160 plus games in the season, and each game takes like 20-30 minutes to sim. Do not sim every game unless you are looking for the absolute realism. If you're interested in just the management side of the game like me, all you have to do is click up here and play, and then autoplay until a specified date. You can specify the date here, next week, next month, next year, and the game will stop simming and give you notifications with these red emails. So these are the emails that just say, okay, somebody's agreed to a contract, or somebody's injured, or somebody's given you a trade proposal, etc., etc. And that will stop the sim, allow you to come in and sort of see what you need to see with that email or that notification, like a player draft or an all-star game, etc. And in doing so, it will allow you to manage that notification and hopefully at that point go through your roster and see where you're at. So as you can see, we won the second game with Max Fried, and if we look through our lineup, we can just get an idea. Okay, so 1 week injury to Ronald Acuna Jr. with shoulder tendonitis, so hopefully that just means that Nick Markakis pops in and Acuna doesn't actually play in any of these games. You never know with the AI though. So Freddie Freeman, injury 6 days, injury toe. So what you can do when a player is injured is place them on the injured list. There's the 10-day IL, which is injured list, or 60-day IL. If they're on the 60-day IL, not everybody knows this, but I'm sure that most of you do. If you're not sure, the 60-day IL, you have a couple of different rosters here. Your active roster, which is 26 players, your 40-man roster, which is 40, and then obviously your minor league teams. Your 40-man roster is made up of your entire active roster plus a couple of players in your minor league system, and it's a maximum of 40 players. So if they have a little asterisk next to their name, so like this, Chad Sobotka, Chad is on my 40-man roster. So if they have a little star next to their name, that means they're on the 40-man roster. If they have a hashtag next to their name, it means they're Rule 5 draft eligible, which means that they can be picked up in the Rule 5 draft. So you want to have these players, especially the highly rated ones, on your 40-man roster, unless you are okay with them being picked up in the Rule 5 draft, which you probably aren't, but I'll deal with that once the Rule 5 draft happens, which is at the end of the season. So when you have a injured player for 60 days, which is 2 months, what you can do is place them on the injured list, 60-day IL, and that will take that player off your 40-man roster. So by doing that, you can then put another player on your 40-man roster. The problem is, of course, once they're healthy and you move them back onto your active roster, if they want to be on the active roster, they have to be on the 40-man roster. And where you can get into trouble is if a player has no option years remaining. I know this is a lot of jargon, a lot of confusing things, but an option year means that they can go down to the minor league without going on waivers, and waivers just means that a team can pick your player up for free. So if you put a player that has no option years on waivers, another team can come in and steal that player from you for free. So you don't want to have that. You got to be very careful with who you're putting on your 40-man roster, especially when you've got some injured players that you've got on your 60-day DL disabled list or injured list, and obviously that can create problems. So I'm just going to put Grant Dayton on the 10-day IL, and that means I can bring another player up to my major league roster, and I'm going to bring up Sobotka because he's the only pitcher on my 40-man roster, and I don't want to add any more at this point in time. So we'll just see how he performs over the next week or two. Oh, we got a herniated disc, so that means that he'll be out for 2 weeks. Let's put him on the 15-day IL. And just as I said, I didn't want to add anyone to the 40-man roster. I think that I will have to here. So let's see. Sean Newcomb, I think, is my next closest MLB ready pitcher, so I'm going to throw him on the active roster. As you can see, my 40-man roster went from 28 to 29, and if I just continue, I should now see him on the, oh no, I guess not. There we go. So he'll be on the pitching roster and he'll be the first guy to pitch today. So let's see how he does today. Okay, so he pitched for 6 innings with a 6 ERA. So a little bit less than ideal. We ended up with a 5-3 loss. Okay, so here's a bad injury. AJ Minter, Atlanta Braves, was diagnosed with bone chips in his elbow, so 6-month injury. That's basically the rest of the season, so I can no longer count on this pitcher. I'll put him on the 60-day IL, and that's going to be basically it for him. So now I have to see how my other pitchers are doing and make my decision based on that. So Chad Sobotka has come up and pitched really well, which is awesome. So I'll have to now bring up a second minor league relief pitcher. We can go with Josh Tomlin, who played for Cleveland. He is really starting to fall off a cliff. He's pitched okay there in Gwinnett, but I'm sure that there is somebody else who is more major league ready. Let's see, just take a look at their ERA on the bottom right hand of the little card that's being shown. Okay, so Tyler Jones, he's not a bad option. And Spulin, he's also pitched quite well. So let's get, what's his name, Tyler Spurlin up. He is, well, you know what, let's go with Tyler Jones because he's 30, so a little bit more experience, and see how he performs. Alright guys, we've made it to the draft pool announcement, and as you can see, we're 9 games back in these major league standings, which is very, very concerning. But if you look up and down the lineup, like, our pitching has been fairly solid. There's nobody with an ERA at 5. There's a couple guys that have, you know, a little bit suspect ERAs, like Chad Sobotka. Okay, he's come up from the minor leagues. I didn't expect him to really perform at the top of his game, but he's done okay. Shane Green, okay, this is probably a guy we want to get rid of at this point. 4.5 ERA, expiring contract. Maybe let's just dump him. Voltinowicz is, you know, he's not had a good season, but he's the only starter that's really having a tough time. Up and down the lineup, like Tyler Flowers, really not performing well. Probably best to move him on. Part of the reason that our pitchers are doing well is because we've got a good defensive catcher, as well as good defensive players in the field, but none of them are really batting to where you'd expect them to. Ozzie Albies with 80 contact is hitting 210, so that just is not sustainable. That should go up, you'd imagine. Freddie Freeman, also somebody that has high contact. This guy has 98 contact. He's batting 244. Like, these are numbers that are just, they have to go up, you'd imagine. And if they don't go up, then it won't be like this for more than a season or two. Dansby Swanson batting 200. Marcell Ozuna batting 240 with only 6 home runs. This is somebody with 66 power. Ronald Acuna Jr., like 215 with 86 contact, 83 power. He's got 4 home runs. These numbers are just way below average, and maybe it will take a trade or something to spice this lineup up, but we'll take it day by day. At this point, I'm not having a panic attack, but I would like the team to perform a little better, and as a result, they're not winning. And as you can see here from the capacity, it's way down. If we look at our personnel, I'm not really at this point ready to fire Brian Snitker. He does have an improving reputation, but he has managed to get this team into the playoffs the last couple of seasons, so I'm not going to pull the trigger on him too quickly. But maybe it is time to fire Kevin Seitzer, who this is his first season and he isn't having great results. He's only got a 1-year contract. Let's just fire him and see if we can bring in a better hitting coach. Let's see, hitting coach with a reputation of average or better, development influence. We want somebody that can have good relationships and also good development. So I guess Tom Branaski is someone that works better with younger players. I do have a young roster. The hitting core is a little bit older, I would say, but overall the prospects that I want to develop are the more important players. So maybe he's someone worth bringing in. We also have Steve Decker. He matches well with my manager with a conventional management style. But okay, let's just try Tom Branaski. Let's see if he can do a little bit more. There we go. A little bit more for our team. Okay, so we'll get the response on him sometime in the next few weeks. probably within the next few days, and we'll see what he has to say in the next episode of Home of the Braves. If you've enjoyed so far, guys, leave it a like, and if you want to see more of this series, subscribe down with the red button below. And until then, I will see you later. Take care.